right. Hello and welcome to Writing in the Weeds. Today we are here with a super special guest, Barb Goodwin, who is with us today. And I've invited her on the show with us today because she is a movement specialist. She's a massage therapist and she just has some amazing insights into what movement's about, why we want to move. We're just going to have one of those really fun conversations around movement and how we can get ourselves moving, and more importantly, why and what is movement. Is it just like I'm just going to go to the gym, call it one and done, and then sit on my butt for the rest of the day? Or is there more to it? So I'm Natasha Lockie. I am a mountain bike life performance coach. I'm all about helping you move through whatever is going on that's got you stuck in your life, whether it's on your bike or it's in other areas of your life. So I'm going to let Barb introduce herself and we're going to have a super fun conversation.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Natasha. It's great to be here. So my name is Barb Goodwin, and I've been a massage therapist for, 28 years now. And I am also a functional therapeutic yoga teacher and also a functional therapeutic breathwork practitioner. So, jeepers, yeah, that's me. I'm a wife of 20 years. I'm a mom of 18 years. I have two boys, one 18, one 17. Life is busy. I have a clinical practice for massage therapy, breathwork. I teach yoga classes, work from home most of the time, and clinic sometimes. And I am a big believer that people don't ever fail exercise, fails people.
Oh, I love that. All right, tell me more about that.
Well, I just think that a lot of times people get this idea of exercise in their head and they move into some trend or going to the gym or doing a specific thing. And they try to start kind of halfway through and they don't build the foundations first. And in our society, really, we've lost so much in the way of connection between body and mind and our ability to sense, feel, and understand what's happening inside our body and to our body, that we really need to rebuild those key pieces before we start doing things that demand more of the body. So if you don't build your foundation and you start saying, hey, we're going to do all of this stuff, the chances of that new regime or plan being sustainable aren't really great.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of going to the gym, doing a workout, and then not being able to move the next day. It's going to really dissuade you from going back.
And it might not dissuade you the first time. It'd be, oh yeah, I worked out. I feel good. I'm just going to walk around like this for a couple of days. I feel cool. But that gets old really fast, super old really fast. And then you get a rotator cuff injury or your hip hurts or you pull your back or, and it's, your body's not broken. You just haven't retaught yourself from infancy and childhood how to live in that body as a moving vessel as opposed to a sitting vessel.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was listening to something recently and it said that sitting is the new smoking, and then they actually said, well, that's not actually the case. It's not that sitting is as bad for you. It's that if we're not constantly getting up and moving during that time, that's when we start to have these issues. So we have these ideas and then there's these strict rules that come in. And as you were talking, I also started to think about somebody who decides that they've been sitting on the couch and they're going to go and start CrossFit. And CrossFit's great if you've already got a foundation. But if you don't have a foundation and you start doing, even the other day I did a workout class and I've had this hip issue and I was doing deadlifts and some Romanian deadlifts. And afterwards, my left glute was so tight and so sore that I had like extreme back pain for a couple of days until I could loosen that glute up. And Ginny was talking, she's like, well, that's probably an imbalance in something else. Look at your knee or something in your body. Absolutely. My right leg doesn't turn on some of the time because of an injury I've had. So when I didn't work out for 3 years because I lost my foundation and I didn't know how to get that foundation back. And I knew that to just go back into doing the workouts that I'd been doing and teaching and all of the things that I had done prior to this injury was not going to work, because I knew that I had a complete foundation breakdown.
So yeah, and I want to come back to that idea that muscles aren't working, not turning on. So one of the things that I do when I work with people and assess them and get them thinking about their own stuff is just take a peek at what's working that should be working, what's working that shouldn't be working, and what's not working that should be working when it comes to the body. But when you're doing that, that requires a really strong ability to feel. And you can't, because you can't change what you can't feel, right? And when you can feel and you can understand what the body is like, the messages that are being sent out all the time, then chances are you would have realized during your workout session that your body was whispering to you or sending yellow lights or giving you advance notice that you might want to alter what you're doing, or at least check in. So maybe it was a foot placement, maybe it was like a twist, maybe it was something. We don't want to spend our whole time going, I'm going to move like this all the time, I'm so controlled. No, but having control and being able to listen allows you to move with freedom and ease the rest of the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned your feet, right? It's like starting at that foundation. And for me, in that moment, I did notice that I had to fight with my ego a little bit. I was like, no, when was the last time you did a deadlift, Tash? I don't generally have weights available to me. And so I went back a notch on the weight that I was lifting, and it was probably still a little bit too much at that point in time. And I didn't stop to think, oh, okay, this is a exercise that is specifically targeting the area of my body that I have been challenged with. So it's been a while and I forget and I think I'm doing good. And then
Well, you are doing good. You're doing great. Just moving is awesome. I would never want to get somebody afraid to move and afraid to try. But it's like, let's tune in first, you know? And even when I'm working with someone one-on-one, it's like I don't tell them to stop what they're doing. I don't say, don't do that. My thing is like, well, let's layer this new skill, this new awareness into what you're doing, and let's see what happens. You might want to try to take a few moments and decide, because you have the ability to decide, is it worth the hit? I have ulcerative colitis. I live with this. I'm super well managed. Sometime I would like to come off of my medical management, but not yet until those kids get through school and I can even things out. But one of the things that I've learned is that I can decide if I want to take the hit. So, for example, I cannot eat ice cream. I can't. And it's a good thing it's not my favorite thing. I like warm food anyways, but I can't eat ice cream. And so sometimes when I'm sitting there and everyone's going out for ice cream, it's like, do I want to take the hit or not? And I make the decision. And it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the hit this time. I'm going to have a small little bit of ice cream. And I know that that's going to affect me in a certain way, but that's okay. And sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm not going to take the hit. I've had a tough week. I don't need anything else on my plate. So you can decide, you know, if you want to take the hit or not. But if you're not aware of what's going on inside you, you can't make that decision. It's not an informed decision, you know?
Yeah, I love that on so many levels. I have the exact same thing with my gluten intolerance. I've been there since I was 19. I had a whole bunch of health issues. Well, not health issues. I just always had a sore stomach up until I figured that out. And it's been a really long time. And it's like, okay, how have I been lately? Where am I at? I've been taking some amazing supplements. The collagen that I take, the probiotics that I take have really revolutionized how big a hit it is now. Like, it used to be a bigger hit, and now I barely notice it. If I have a little bit of gluten or I have a little bit of dairy, it's really actually not going to affect me that much. And I find it interesting to see where it's going to affect me, because sometimes it's like, I wonder where the inflammation is in my body right now. Where's a weak part? And it's fascinating because until you said that, I hadn't really seen how much that actually is throughout my entire thinking in my life. Like every time I do things, it's not just the diet, but it's also if I don't do this job today, like what's that going to look like for the rest of the week? If I don't do that thing I know I should do, am I willing to, as you say, take the hit in whatever area of my life that is? And sometimes, it's like, am I willing to have that conversation with my husband right now? Because what's the result going to be?
Yeah.
But that's a really good way of looking at it because you have the opportunity to decide. And a big thing for me is if you're choosing whatever it is you're doing, then you are making the choice, and whatever the outcome is from that choice, you're able to handle it. It's when you're making subconscious and unconscious choices, that's when you get upset with yourself. That's when the trust gets eroded. That's when everything feels like it's out of control, is because you're not actually choosing. You're eating something that you shouldn't, and then you feel bad later, and then you feel guilty that you did. But if you're like, you know what? No, I'm going to eat ice cream. And then when my stomach hurts or whatever it is that comes up later on, I'm going to be like, oh, that was the ice
I
cream.
know what that's from. It's short-lived. This too shall pass. It's within my control. And it was me exercising my agency that brought this about. So I'm okay with that. That can be taken into so many, like you said, everywhere. But it takes a moment. And I know mindfulness gets overused. I like John Kabat-Zinn's definition where he says mindfulness is merely paying attention on purpose. And I really love that because to me, that's exactly how I work with mindfulness. It's like I am purposely paying attention because I want to pay attention. I want to be able to feel and do and see and listen differently. And that requires that I do it on purpose, do anything on purpose. And I mean, can you be mindful 100% of the time? No, no. But I love it actually, because I even find when I'm dealing with my kids, it's great because I can sit there and take that kind of micro pause and go, all right, do I need to raise my voice? What will the probable outcome be if I do that? If I address it this way or this way. So I have these conversations in my head, but I have practiced mindfulness for a very long time, like over 20 years. And it's been a conscious practice of mine, but I'm able to do these things. And I find that when I'm in meetings or I sit on the executive board for the Lanark Highland Games, right? So it's fun. It's a great group of people and it celebrates our Celtic and Gaelic history in our region. But there's all different kinds of people that sit on that board. And sometimes it's like, don't speak. It's like, what's the outcome going to be? What is the best way? So this person here kind of operates on this level. So how can I say what I need to say that will land with them because it needs to land with them, which is trickier than it sounds because I'm a smartass. So sometimes it's like, yeah, no, Barb, we're not going to do that.
Just zip it. Don't go
Just
there.
But, it's the same thing with movement. I find that it has to be a conscious decision. I've been sitting here, like you were saying, sitting is the new smoking. I think I probably listened to the same podcast you did about, no, it's not really the new smoking. It's just being in the same position for an extreme amount of time is really bad for you. It's like they're sitting, you're doing lots of things, you're cutting off circulation a lot to your lower limbs, you're not challenging your cardiovascular system. You're not making shapes with your body. So your joints are becoming less lubricated, making you feel stiff. Your muscles are adopting a specific length. And because that's their habit, then that's what is interpreted as being optimal. A posture, same thing. It's like there's no good or bad posture. It's just this is the posture that is supporting what this organism does 90% of the time. So this is where the body is going to become more not totally fixed, but more adapted to. So the same thing though, then you go and you stand all day and it's like, well, then you've got your blood and fluids pooling in the feet and you are probably not bearing weight very well through the pelvis and lots of like off to one sides or another, you're still not challenging your heart. And actually you're challenging it in non-optimal ways because you have to try to pull this fluid up from your feet. And so it's the same thing. And the idea is that you need to just throughout your day, shift and shift and shift and shift. Can I tell a story?
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
have a friend. She used to be a client. I don't like the word client. I don't like the word patient. It's like she's a person that used to see me professionally for a massage. Let's put it that way. And
I love it.
we became more friendly. And then it was like, you know what? Let's just pause the therapeutic relationship. I'd rather be friends. And our families are friends. Our kids are close to the same age. And we went that route instead, which is great. So we were out having coffee probably about 3 weeks ago now. And she was saying how much better she was feeling. Now, she has this condition in her back where the space, like inside the spinal column at the bottom, is narrowing. The sacrum is the large triangular bone at the base of the spine between the two kind of wings of the pelvis. And where that last vertebra sits on top of the sacrum, it's kind of shifted forward a little bit, like towards the front of the body. So she has this going on, and she's had some really painful episodes with this. But she was saying how much better she was doing. Her doctors were happy, and she was active, and she was doing great. So I don't know how it came about exactly, but she was complaining about feeling really stiff with work. Now, she has an exemption. Everyone got ordered back to work kind of thing, but she, because of this back issue that developed after she was working from home, she's allowed to stay at home, which is good because she needs her office set up a certain way with specific chair and the ability to move. So she's been working from home, but she was saying that she was just really feeling that she was stiffening up because even though she was going sit to stand, she felt like she wasn't moving. And so I was explaining to her the body is meant to move in multiple planes, and the joints have a range of motion for a reason, and we're supposed to take our body through those ranges of motion multiple times every single day, and most of us don't. So she's like mid 50s at this point, early to mid 50s. So lots of things happening, right? So I was telling her about this piece of equipment that I had recently heard about that one of my other people had gotten, and it's called a MoveMate balance board. And it's this really cool articulating balance board, kind of like a wobble board where you kind of wobble back and forth one way or the other, but it's articulated. So your feet, like it all moves kind of like a flow, and you can twist one way and the other. And it's wonderful. It's great. You can work on balance. You can use it while you're standing, and it pumps your muscles. So you're helping to return blood, right? Because that muscular pump through the lower limbs is so important to get blood back to the heart. And you're changing the position of your joints and your arteries. Anyway, so this other person that I have that comes to see me for massage, she has Harrington rods in her back. She fell and broke her back about 3 years ago now. And she got this board after we were chatting about it. And she was like just raving about it. She's like, oh my God, for the first time since my accident, my hips don't hurt. And oh yeah, she was so amazed. So
My
anyway,
husband literally was telling me about one of these the other day, and it's fascinating that you're now. So we will talk about this
okay.
later. Keep going.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, I'm so impressed with this thing actually that I've joined up, and I'm not selling on here, but I've actually become an affiliate partner for them because I just think that is so great. But this story isn't so great because this person that decided to, after coffee, decided to get this board, and I wasn't pushing it on her because I didn't know if it would be best for her or not. She decided to get it on her own. She sent me a message say, hey, I got the MoveMate and it came today. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, try it out, see how it goes, go slow, because she's not a go slow person. Okay. Anyway,
Yep.
so she messaged me and she goes, oh my God, I love this. This is so great. My back feels great. My legs feel great. And I'm like, awesome. The next day, she stood on that bloody thing all freaking day, all
Oh,
day. And she was in the hospital the next day because she lost the sensation in the saddle area. So, like if you're riding a bike or on a horse, think of the part of the body that is connected to the saddle. And she
yep.
lost sensation. She didn't lose like any functions, which is good. And she didn't have pain, which she was really happy with, but she lost sensation. And I'm like, did this happen like after you used the board? And she goes, well, yeah, I did. And I said, well, how much did you use it? And she goes, well, I just used it like all day on Tuesday or whatever it was. I'm like, all day? I said, that's not how it's supposed to be used. So anyways, and she realized that. So it's just one of those things where, again, no foundation. If she had gone into it slowly, then she would have built, and she, again, she's a very, and I don't like to label people, but type A, you know, that like go, 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 more is better. Typically they were the no pain, no gain people. They have no connection to their body. That person that really is that go, 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 win at all costs, no pain, no gain, they have very little connection. And it's really hard to.
With my mountain biking students, there's two types of people. You've got the people that go like too fast and too slow. And my job is to get everybody to come into the middle. So if you're going too slow, I need to speed you up. And if you're going too fast, I need to slow you down. Because when you're going too fast with no control, you're constantly feeling like you're on the edge, and you're on the edge of crashing the entire time. And if you're going too slow, you don't have enough momentum to actually do whatever you need to do. So there's that optimal speed, and that optimal speed changes as you get your foundation. So when you're building that foundation, once you've got those foundation skills, like my person is going too fast, I need you to slow down, and I need you to learn to roll the bike from side to side, and you need to look further ahead, and we'll teach you those foundations, we'll get you balanced, and then before you know it, you'll be going twice as fast as you were going before, but you will feel 100% in control. So it's not about slowing you down forever. It's about bringing you back to the foundations, getting those foundations set up. And then on the other hand, you're going too slow person, their foundations are so flippin' out of control amazing. If you put both those people into a slow race together, that slow person is going to kill it because they have the most incredible balance because they've been going slow. But you know, it's like when we talk about, Barb and I were in a business momentum program together, and it's like you've got to build that foundation. But if you don't ever start speeding up, you're not ever going to get anywhere. And if you're going too fast, you're going to blow up before you actually achieve the results. So whatever you're doing in life, you need to find the optimal speed to get the momentum, have the foundations, and then, but yeah, I was going to say, you've got those people that they're always researching and they're always building and they're always studying and they're always needing to know more, and they never actually make any movements, so they never go anywhere. And then you've got the people that are out there failing magnificently, and then eventually the ego just can't handle it anymore, right? And so it happens in whatever area. And for me, it's all about when we bring it back, the beautiful thing about the body and movement is that feedback loop is so fast. And so if you can learn to feel within your body when you're doing movements, then that allows you to actually go, oh, okay. And you can see it more if you're building a business or whatever it is in your life. You start to be like, oh, okay, the feedback loop is slower. I feel blessed that I've had health issues as far as my stomach goes and having to watch what I eat. Yeah, it's annoying, but at the same time, it has taught me so much about paying attention to what is going on and knowing what is the cause of that, and whether it's in my biking or it's in the way my body feels. I have been forced to create that connection and be very mindful of that connection. And I think that's what's so beautiful about when we start to move, and if we move with intention and we don't just bulldoze through, we're like, oh, okay, I went to that gym class and now I have a really sore back. Okay, let's figure out what actually caused it, and now what can I do going forward to make sure A, that doesn't happen again, and B, eliminate the pain that I'm in right now. And if we're paying attention to the feedback that we're getting, then we're able to do that, and that lesson can be extrapolated into every part of our human experience.
Yeah, and there's so many things that are there, and me being kind of the educator, I want to pick up on one thing specifically you said right close to the end there. And I just want to make sure that people are cueing in to what pain is. So the body is full of these sensors, right? Like nerve endings. And there's these specific ones called nociceptors, nociceptors. So what these nociceptors do is they sense things. So it could be mechanical, chemical, thermal instances that excite them or get them turned on. And they send the messages from that excitement stage to the brain, and the brain decides whether to completely ignore. So these things are on all the time, right? All the time, and they're just running in the background. And the brain decides, okay, so is this important enough to do something about? Is this just a thing? Is this just like a seam on the pants? And some people have more sensitive responses, right? So maybe this is just a seam on the pants. So yeah, I'm getting that message from that nociceptor on the hip, but it's in the background. It's kind of a background program running. And so then the brain decides what to do with it. So it's not even necessarily that there's damage. These nociceptors just detect potential for damage, and they create a potential for pain. And then the brain decides, okay, yes, I'm going to deal with that right now. I don't think they should do that. And the system can get oversensitized. So sometimes if you have a history of back pain and the nociceptors get lit up a little bit, then they send that message to the brain, and the whole system is like, "Ooh, hang on a sec. In our history, this has not been a good thing. So I'm going to send out all the pain because I want them to stop what they're doing." Right. And I don't want to get into that situation again where it's going to be really damaging. So pain is and I know some people don't like this, but pain is a beautiful thing if we listen to it and pay attention to it. And then when we become mindful and we have that also running in the background, that mindfulness program that just kind of is there and working, then it helps to discern. You can actually sit there and go, okay, so there is a sensation here. So have you ever knocked yourself on something and gone, ouch, and then it didn't hurt? Okay, so it happens, right? So it's like your body's like initial response is to send that pain, like that initial pain reaction, because it has the potential to hurt, but then it doesn't, right? Because you've had time to kind of go, oh, yeah, no, it didn't hurt. I'm okay. I'm cool. So it's the same thing when I'm working with somebody on the table. They're like, ooh, ow. And it's like, okay, hang on a sec. And we back out of the position that I've put them in or what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, so tell me about that. Was it a sensation or was it pain? What did you actually feel? And they're like, well, I felt pressure. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put the pressure back on. Now, is that painful? And they're like, no. Okay. So I'm going to move your joint a little bit. And is that painful? No. And it's like, okay, so just think about what I'm doing, pay attention, and just tell me when the pain starts. Well, the pain doesn't start, right? It's that initial kind of grabby thing, you've lit up those sensors and the brain has responded because it's a new sensation. It's different. Could be described as threatening. And the brain just sends that initial pain reaction right away to stop. So it's really cool. Yeah. And pain is not all in the head. It's an important defensive mechanism. And sometimes there's a lot of damage going on. And sometimes it's just that your body taking the very best care of you that it possibly can.
Absolutely. One of the things that I think speaks to this really well is I was recently in Mexico and I was doing a bike retreat and I borrowed a friend's bike. Now I have my brakes around the opposite way from being in New Zealand. So right to me is not rear, right is my front brake. My girlfriend's bike was obviously set up North American style. And I could have switched them over, but the trails went, I was like, it doesn't really matter. But when you go into a corner, a more advanced cornering technique is that you come in, both brakes are on, and then you let go of your front brake because you release that control. And then as you come out of the corner, you let go of your back brake. And so I'm coming into a corner and I'm like, okay, consciously telling my body, like, we need to let the left hand off. We need to let off the brake on the left hand. And my brain was like, absolutely no freaking way. Like I'm not doing that. And so it's letting off my right hand because that's my front brake, because it knows that that is what it does. And the pattern is so set up. Like even when I was telling my brain and trying to talk myself and override that pattern, it didn't want to do it, right? And then another example, coming back to that pain, was I was really dealing with the arthritis in my left knee was really bad one snowboarding season, and I would go into a turn and my body would resist going into that position, not because there was pain, but because it was so scared of the potential pain. And there was no injury there. It was purely just my arthritic knee pain, so I wasn't doing any damage, but my brain was like, nope, that's going to hurt. We're not doing that. And to override
it's hard.
That, it's fascinating. And noticing it too and being like, okay, there wasn't even any pain, but the brain and the body's anticipation of how much that might hurt. And I knew that that pain was not an indication that I was doing more damage, but it was also a testament to my stupidity or my pain level or the fact I just had to go to work. Some of the time I'd be doing things and I'd literally have my jacket in my mouth, like biting down on it, because I knew in that position was gonna
no.
It was sucky for a while.
Oh.
But to tie that into this conversation that we seem to be talking about our food as well, that actually all ended up being because my gluten intolerance, normally it would affect my stomach, but because my knee was so sensitive and so inflamed at that time, anytime I would eat anything that my body couldn't digest properly, the inflammation would go to my knee. So all it was an inflammation from my diet that was causing the arthritis to flare up, which was causing me to have all this pain. So it was a fascinating, once I untangled it all, well, now I don't have that issue. It's really fascinating how even before the pain starts, right, we will
preemptory pain, yep.
It's insane. Now, I did just want to come back to something that we were talking about before we jumped on, which was what you focus on a lot is getting people moving. And you made the comment that going to the gym once a day is great. However, if you go to the gym in the morning and then drive your car to the office and sit in your butt in that seat for 8 hours and then go home and sit on the couch and go about and then go to bed, that actually is not optimal. And I want to just dig into
that. I mean, going to the gym for an hour is better than not going to the gym for an hour. I don't want to have it come across that like, don't go to the gym, don't go for that long walk, don't do that, don't do this. But we still need to, so that time that you spend, that concentrated time block, unfortunately, doesn't erase the negative effects of being sedentary for the rest of your day. So we still have the risks of being sedentary attached to those sitting behaviors and those non-moving behaviors. So sitting or standing, like we were talking about, those risks are still there. So any kind of metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, well, that's cardiovascular, diabetes, type 2, what else? Any of the autoimmune diseases, stress related, all of those things are super influenced by this sedentary behavior. So we need to build that movement into the day. And sit to stand is good. Like you have sitting desks, standing desks over the last kind of decade. How can we make this more convenient? How can we have everything right within reach? And actually, it's far more beneficial to have to get up and go do something, have to go to the photocopier, have to go to somebody's office. So when you have that opportunity, for example, to send an email or get up and walk to the next desk, then do that kind of thing. I have one person that I work with. She had the opportunity to change the location of her desk at work. So she changed it to the furthest point in the room. And it was a big room. It was a room full of cubicles. So she put it in the furthest point from the door to the washroom and the cafeteria. So she knew that she would get those extra couple hundred steps going from her desk to the door, whereas she was halfway or right there. So just little things that you can do within your day. Those are the things that add up. And it's not just about walking. Walking is awesome, by the way, but it's not just about exercising, lifting weights or walking or doing calisthenics or anything like that. It's just about changing the shape of your body, really.
Okay.
You want to change your geometries. Just move your arms up, take them through your range of motion. Make little circles with your elbows, front and back. Not big circles, not anything drastic. Change the level that you're at. If you can get on the floor without somebody asking you if you need help, then get on the floor, stand up, sit down, sit on a ball, even a wobble board or one of those movemate boards. Just practice these things and take them into your day. Don't do it all at once, because you'll end up like my friend who, well, you won't end up like her, but you could end up with something being aggravated that you don't need aggravated. But you have to move during the day. I think this was before we came on. I was talking to you about the people that I like to work most with, that I really connect well with. And they're the people that, working in a group situation, they're the people that life has made them sedentary. They get up, they take care of their kids, they get in the car, they go to work, they commute, and then they get to work, they sit down and they do their work. They get up, they go get in their car, they commute, they go home, they grab some kind of food for supper, and then they take the kids to whatever extracurricular they're doing, where they sit in the car or sit in the room or sit in the bleachers and watch. And then they take the kid home, and then it's rinse and repeat. And then these are also the people that, and no judgment here, because I do these things when I'm busy. Oh, believe me, I take advantage of these conveniences. It's like they have somebody clean their house. They have somebody do their yard work. They order their groceries online and just drive into a parking spot in the parking lot, and someone comes and brings their groceries to them. You do what you need to do to get through your day, to get everything done. But all of these conveniences take away our opportunities for moving. And life has made them that way. It's just what has happened. So you're not getting even that base level of 5,000 steps a day in. And it's that 5,000 steps is kind of a generally accepted border between sedentary and minimally active.
Okay. And so then I have a question about these people. So when you work with them and they come into one of your programs, whether it be coming to a yoga class or working in your online programs to get people moving, does everything change for them? Do they have better ability to manage their kids? What do you see? You know, yeah, okay, we know that bringing that movement in is going to help their health. But here on Riding in the Weeds, we're all about how movement allows us to learn a lot faster, and that feedback loop we were talking about. So what do you see with your people?
Oh, so many things. If we look at it through the lens of 4 different cameras, let's say. So we have the mechanical level, and let's call that your ability to move through a range of motion with confidence and ease. So the mechanical level changes. And as the mechanical level changes, your physiological level will change too. And that's like what's circulating within your system. So that's your overall internal health. So your digestion improves, your ability to have that transition of gases for energy. So oxygenation, removing carbon dioxide, having that balance out to an optimal level. Your ability to produce energy within the cell improves. Your cardiovascular system improves, because what happens inside the tubes of the cardiovascular system is that if we don't stretch and move and bend the shapes of our tubes, our arteries, and our vessels, then that increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, because it will harden, and again, it will take on the shape that you're habitually in. So that's a really basic kind of understanding of the physiological level. Then you have your nervous system. And your nervous system is, of course, like this continuum. That there's parasympathetic, and that's your rest and digest, and your fight and flight is your sympathetic. And it's like we go from one to the other. We need both ends of that scale, but we need to be able to not live in that sympathetic, where most of us tend to spend a lot of time. So with moving, it takes you out of there. I'll come back to that in a second. So just moving will start to reset your nervous system. Also, when you're moving more, and it's neat that we're talking about weeds for the name of this podcast, but one of the analogies I use is that your muscles are there, and it's not like they don't work. It's just that it's like an overgrown driveway. So if you have a house at the end of a long laneway and nobody's been to that house in ages, the house is still there and it still is a house and it still does what it needs to do, but the driveway is overgrown with weeds because nobody's been walking back and forth. Then that's your signals to use that house, to use that muscle. And if you start to tread that path on a regular basis, you start to make that connection, then those weeds are going to go away. The path is going to become more delineated, more easy to walk, and those muscles, which is the house, will turn on again and will do their job. So it's just building that pathway. So you've got that one level of the nervous system, which is your somatic, which is your voluntary muscular action. And then you've also got that autonomic system, which is your sympathetic, parasympathetic balance and the ability to go back and forth. And movement is so important for that. So we have like mechanical, we have physiological, we have nervous system, and then there's the emotional pillar or the emotional lens as well. Moving changes your mindset. Okay, simply by getting up and walking around, and especially if you can get outside while you're doing it, just does so much good for your mental health.
Yep.
Tons and tons of research about that. The thing that's hard about that, though, is that when you're in a mindset that is tending towards a depressive or anxious state, it's really hard to talk yourself into moving, right? So that's why it's good to look at maybe some of these other pillars first and use and pull on those levers. Use tools to pull on those levers to start to get that emotional area ready to move and wanting to move. And they all interrelate, of course, but those are the 4 areas. So moving affects all of them. So let's take that into everyday life. Let's look at your professional life. Okay. So if you are sluggish and sore and your mindset is not in a good place and you're living in that sympathetic fight or flight, you won't be able to perform nearly as well at work. You'll not be able to focus and concentrate. You won't be able to maybe sit for long enough periods to get your work done because you'll be in pain. And so you're going to miss out on professional opportunities, right? Or you may not even feel like you're able to take advantage of a professional opportunity that comes your way because you're just not in a physical, mental, physiological place to do that. Personal life, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but I know for a lot of people I work with, one of the things with women is that they love to go on these little shopping days, right? You know, it's cute little towns and a bunch of women get together and they go to these shopping adventures. And these quaint little towns have like hills and little streets and the shops are all separate. It's not like you walk into a mall and you can sit down at a bench anytime you want to, right? Maybe I see it more because in my area, there's a lot of little towns like that, but this comes up a lot. And these women are like, I don't think I can keep up. I can't go. I'm missing out because I can't go. I won't be able to, I'm going to hold everyone else back and everyone's going to be mad at me and I'm not going to have a good time. And so they miss out on these personal, wonderful experiences. Or I can't lift my grandkids up off the floor. I can't get down and play with my kids or my grandkids. My pets, I can't take my dog for a walk. I can't get a dog because I can't take it for a walk. I can't take care of it. So you're missing out on a lot of really personal things that really make people glow and shine and love life, right? So personal, professional, family, I mean, again, if you're in pain, you're grumpy, and your relationships within your family, your closest relationships are going to suffer. And I see this change for people.
Yeah.
I have one woman that's in the program now, and she loves to ski and she does ski patrol. And she was like, I have to tell you, she said, and it seemed that for her, the shoe seemed to drop or this thing clicked in place. This was this one little movement we did with the massage ball. And she said, ever since I started doing that, I've been able to get up and down easier from a chair. And she says, I was at the hill and a little one fell and was crying, and we wanted to check her out. She was like, I got down on my knees to check her out. And she said, without even thinking about it, I got up. She says, up until yesterday, somebody had to help me up. And I was like, boom. You know what? It's because that sensation that was created by using that massage ball cleared the path, got the last of the weeds out of the way, so that you were able to make that connection to the muscle movement and the muscle patterning that was required to get up. And she did.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that's not someone who's an inactive
No.
person. They're out skiing, they're out doing all this stuff, and yet I've been feeling that. It's like, oh my God, I'm not an inactive person, and yet getting up and down, I got to do something about this because it's not helping. And I just wanted to circle back to those 4 pillars and then what you said after that. I think it's really important to point out that you can find a goal and a reason to move in those 4 places. So if emotionally it's too hard because you're in a depressed state of whatever that looks like, what goal can you attach to? Like, yeah, maybe in 6 months' time you're going on a trip and you know you're going to be in Italy and you're going to be walking around a lot. And okay, so I want to be able to keep up with everybody when we go shopping. Or for me, it's often as females, we're fed all of this information about how we need to lose weight. And so we start moving and we don't see the... Right, yeah, right. There's a whole other conversation, but the scale doesn't move, and then we're told we should be eating less food, or we should be eating differently, and we should be doing this and this and this, and so you're like, too much, I give up, and you don't do anything. Whereas if you can say, right, I know that the number one reason why as old people we end up in retirement homes is because we can't get up off the floor. I don't want to be like that. So let's throw out the need to lose 20 pounds. Let's throw out the scale. Let's throw all that out, and let's make our goal being able to keep up on the shopping trip, being able to be strong enough to get up off the floor without assistance, being able to, move and not have sore hips, being strong enough to balance on one leg. Those goals don't require our emotional state to be in a better place because we've now attached to something different, and we can start to see results so much faster. Because unfortunately, you start working out, you start doing strength exercises, you stand on the scale, it doesn't go anywhere. Well, that actually might not have anything to do with the fact that you've gained some muscles and you've lost a little bit of fat. Your body composition will change. Your clothes might still even feel the same. So that's not going to give you that feedback loop that's going to want to encourage you to keep going. But as you said, we have 4 different pillars. So which one will you be able to see improvement in quickly? Focus on that and make that your
And
goal.
one of the things that I wanted to put in there is that for a lot of people that I work with that are dealing with that emotional kind of barrier to movement, finding really small micro goals is super helpful. And I also work with some people that have fibromyalgia or chronic pain, that kind of thing, those syndromes. And one of the things that I really find important to share with them is that every day is its own day. And if on Tuesday you really don't feel like you can do much, just remember that there's no such thing as not moving if you're alive, because your heart is beating and you're breathing. So if that's all you can do on that particular day, you got to win. Okay? Even if you can lie on the sofa and work on, and we do this within the programs that I teach, work on focusing on letting your diaphragm move better. Because your diaphragm is a muscle. It's my favorite muscle. It does so many things, but work on just sensing your diaphragm and working your diaphragm a little bit, and work on being able to feel your rib cage, and maybe like just work on getting that sticky spot in your rib cage working a little bit better. You can work out your diaphragm by just closing off your nostrils a little bit, breathing through your nose, and increasing the resistance of the air. So your diaphragm has to contract harder to pull the air in. That's how easy it is to work out a muscle in your body. So there's always something. And even doing that little bit is going to have a positive effect on the mental emotional state of the person doing it. just change your breath pattern a little bit. If you're feeling kind of down and like low energy, just change your breath pattern. There's certain breath patterns you can use that kind of increase your nervous system into that sympathetic range. And that's good. When you need to be up, there's tools you can use. And it's all tied in together. And that's one of the other things that we do in the Walking to Wellness program is we learn how to use the breath to optimize or to engage ourselves in different activities and to motivate and to self-heal too.
Yeah. And everything that you just said, doesn't matter whether you're completely sedentary or, as you say, you're a skiing friend. We think we're doing one thing, so therefore everything's good. And often, if we are getting pain, if we are feeling stiff, if things are not moving really nicely and well oiled, then there is probably more to what we're doing. I've found it really interesting over the last few years, going from being on my bike 8 hours a day, and movement has always been part of my job, whether it's been because I'm cleaning a lodge or I'm riding my bicycle or I'm teaching fitness classes. I haven't had to think that hard about it. But over the last few years, I've been less able to move. And so when I have been moving, it's been because I have to. And again, I've still been moving a lot, but I've become a lot less. I've spent a lot more time sitting down. And now I'm in that phase of being like, okay, I got to move more. I got to figure out how to put more intentional movement into my day. And especially right now, because as we go into spring and summer, if I'm not getting these aches and pains that I've got under control, it's going to be harder. We're working on a farm, and yesterday we were out like tying chain around a fence, and then we have to pull the fence out, and it's like you got to get up and you got to get down, and you got to move the chain, and it's like, this is an effort. Like, what can I do? This is where the evening and the morning yoga come in, and this is where like different types of movement I'm constantly playing with. When I was a snowboard instructor, a cat ski guide, and I'd get into situations where I had to move around in the snow, and I'm teaching 3 HIIT classes a day, like in the morning and then doing 1 in the afternoon. I am not an inactive, not strong person, and yet I can't move around in the snow. One day I went out and I like ran up and down a really snowy bank to try and teach my muscles. I can do 100 burpees, no problem, but I can't move around. If there was an avalanche, I'm barely able to move around without feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack. It's like, yeah, where are the weeds and where do I need to remove them?
And if you're thinking about it too, like burpees are amazing cardiovascular exercise and strengthening exercise, but they're in a single plane, right? And most of the stuff that we do is in a single plane. Walking, running, cycling, it's all in that single plane. Where when we fall or run into issues is when we get out of that plane. So practicing movements in multiple planes and practicing balancing in multiple planes is really, really important for people. And it doesn't have to be a big movement. It has just got to be out of the usual plane. So instead of sitting all the time facing your desk in that perfect ergonomic position, spend 5 minutes twisted. Spend 5 minutes twisted the other way. You don't want to be perfect all the time, like in a perfect posture or a perfect position all the time. We're made to move. We're made to be all over the place. We're not made to just kind of be in one spot.
Same thing. I remember hearing years ago in regards to a diet, if you eat salad every day and you eat a perfect diet the whole time, it's like you got to throw the body a curveball. And it's like you're having a little bit of ice cream or me eating a chocolate chip cookie. It's like you're actually throwing your body a challenge. And when you get a challenge, the body then has to deal with the challenge. If it never gets any challenges, then it's going to be really good at what it's doing.
Exactly.
But that's not going to work.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we're probably needing to wrap up here. But before we go, there's a couple of things. One is that you have 4 beautiful furry animals that you have in your life. And just really quickly, if you want to throw it into our theme of animals and how they teach us. So when it comes to movement and it comes to dealing with being an entrepreneur, running a business, being a mom, all of the things, all the facets of your life. How do your relationship with your pets? He comes in every time we get to this part of the conversation.
Oh my
Crazy.
gosh. My pets. I have never, I don't think in my entire life, been without a pet. And I don't know that I ever could be. I just love them. And so we have border collies, 3 female border collies. I did have 4. My male, who was 13, passed away last month, and it still hurts my heart. He was my recovery dog after being sick. He was the dog that kind of, it was my reward. I mean, I had the kids, I had my husband, I had lots of love in my life, but he was just the unconditional, and he was my dog, you know. I'm going to cry. But anyway, so he was 13, he had a great life, and it was quick for him.
Yeah.
We have the 3 females now, and they're all different, and they've all had to overcome different things. One in particular, it was a puppy that we kept from a litter. The mama dog, who we also have, chucked her off of the scale that I was weighing her on at one point when she was just like a day old, and chucked her into the side of the puppy box. The poor little thing, she just yelped and screamed like for 20 minutes, and I just held her. I figured she was going to die, but there's nothing I could do. So I just held her and patted her, but she didn't. But what happened is she didn't develop one of her eyes. So we kept her, and we ended up like having the eye removed and the lid sewn shut permanently. And to watch her learn to navigate with this deficit on the one side is interesting. It's dangerous for her sometimes too, because she is an active dog, and we have to be careful to guide her away from obstacles that she'll run into. She actually got on the road. We live on a busy road. She got on the road last year because she couldn't see the vehicles, but she got scared. So that's the last time she's done that. But so they get me outside. They get me up and moving. I mean, patting a dog, I mean, come on, you know, that just releases all kinds of good things like endorphins and dopamine and serotonin just from patting an animal is so good for you internally. I'm doing the 4 pillars again. So it gets me moving because I have to go out and take care of them and run them and walk them and pick up their poop and all that kind of stuff. And then internally, this just taking care of a dog, taking care of something in general releases all of these great feel-good chemicals in your body. Emotionally, just try patting an animal and not feeling more calm, you know? And then what was the other one? Nervous system. Wow. Yeah, same thing, you know. They're everything to me. And they just supply a constant for me. Like they are a touchstone. If something isn't going well, I spend time with my animals. And then we have a little furry one that's a little white cavapoo thing that we got for the kids that, of course, I take care of. She's her own little personality, and she's a totally different energy than the other dogs. And she is my greeter in my clinic. She loves people. And, you know, anyone who's upset, and I know who likes dogs and who doesn't like dogs when they come in, right? So anyone who's upset or seems to be hurting, they'll come in, they'll sit down, and I have a sofa that they sit on. And she will get right up on the sofa, and she will snuggle right up to them, and she will let them pat her as they tell me all about what's going on. And to watch the tension leave their body as they're able to verbalize what's going on with them and pat that friggin' dog, it is so amazing to see. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I think so much of that comes from the fact that these beautiful animals, they give love unconditionally. They're so in the moment, and it's like you watch them move around, and when they need to move, they move. And everything that we've talked about, they instinctively have that. So I think when we connect with them, that energy is so important for us to, if you can be with it and really see it, then you get, it's sort of by osmosis, you get the beautiful benefits of those relationships. Yeah, this big furry rug I have is, he's taught me so much. Okay, so lastly, I just want to wrap this up, and if you can talk about how we get a hold of you, what you do, if people would like to know more about your Walking to Wellness program, if they want to know about this movement board, which I do, so we'll talk about that when we're done. How do they find you, and a little bit about the programs that you offer?
Well, thank you. So I have the 2 levels of programs. Well, I'll call them levels, but actually more than that. So people can come see me in my massage therapy practice if they happen to be close to Almond, Ontario. Just give me a shout. It's pretty tough to get in, but I'll see what I can do. I have like my yoga classes, which I teach in a hybrid mode. So I have people that come into my studio as well as I live stream them at the same time. And I have a kind of an intermediate hatha that I do, as well as a chair gentle adaptive. And that chair gentle adaptive is really great, especially if someone's recovering from an injury or illness, because it gets them reconnected with their joints and able to move. We move every joint in the body, every single class in some way. And we work on balance and the ability to go from a chair to standing and standing to a chair. And we just use the chair as a prop and support for working on different important functions like lunging and bending kind of thing. So that's a really cool class. So those are available, like I said, in person or online. And then I have, it's called Safe to Move Again. And that's the one-to-one program that I offer for people with underlying conditions that want to build up their foundation. So their connection, their awareness, their ability to consciously control their movements, then integrate that and their movements into their everyday lives, and then optimizing their abilities from there, depending on their independent personal goals. So that program, I work one-to-one with people, and it's 12 weeks. And then I have my group program, which is called Walking to Wellness. And that's really getting people from sitting down for most of their day, being inactive for most of their day, to achieving consistently 5,000 steps every day. And that 5,000 steps is a widely accepted boundary between inactive and mildly active. And breaking that barrier, I've just seen it light people up. And once they've broken through that 5,000 steps, then it seems like they just want to build on it and go more and more and more. So those are the ways that I work with people. Every instance, I encourage people to call, make an appointment to have just a brief little consultation. They're free. And I have to say, I don't work with everybody. I refer people that I really feel that I don't offer what they need at that point in time. But I do like to just have that opportunity to chat with them. And I've had someone on the calls before and they go, "Oh, I thought you were just going to try to sell me the one-to-one." I'm like, "No, that's not what's best for you." It's like, no, this is what you need. And what's best for somebody takes into all kinds of things: their ability to commit time, their ability to pay for something, their ability to move, where they are in their healing journey. So all of those things come into play. So it's not just the one-to-one is where you want to be. If you have 3 kids under 6 and your life is super full, then probably investing in that one-to-one container is not going to be the best thing. It's going to add stress to your life. So let's look at some other options to get you started, kind of thing. I have a Calendly link, so I don't know if you can put that in the show notes or something if somebody wants to connect.
Yeah,
that's probably the
absolutely.
best way to do it. And I am also on Facebook, and I'm not like a serial poster. I'm not super good at putting a whole bunch of stuff up, but I put things up once in a while as I think about it. So I have my personal Facebook page, which is Barb Goodwin Stewart. And then I have my business page, which is Barb Goodwin Wellness. And I also have a private group for people. It's a small, intimate group at this point, but it's called the Couch Quitters Club, which also happens to be the name of my upcoming podcast that I'll be starting. I have the first episode recorded. I just have to get it edited. So my nephew's going to help me with that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love the name, Couch Quitters Club.
It's like, awesome. Quit that couch. I think the Facebook group says Couch Quitters Club because we got to let that sit go.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. That's very awesome. Yeah, well, I'm excited to hear the first episode and when you get them all started.
I don't know how good it's going to be, but I'm getting started.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. I just wanted to say if anybody has been listening to this show and someone that needs to get moving and you think this would help them, please share it. This is Riding in the Weeds. You can find us at ridingintheweeds.com. Like, share, subscribe, and please leave us a comment. And if you have any questions for Barb, please leave us a comment and I'll definitely get them answered. I'm Natasha Lucky. I am a life and mountain bike performance coach, all about helping you get out of the weeds wherever you're stuck in your life. If you're not feeling like you are living your dream life, if you're not in an unapologetically you space, I am here to help. So you can find me on Facebook at Natasha Lucky. Betty Gohard is my Instagram, and we're on Substack as well. So I have been really trying to focus on getting stuff up on Substack as well. So you can find me and the show Riding in the Weeds there. And of course, we are missing my beautiful co-host, Jenny Brandon, today, but we will be back with her in another show. So yeah, do you have any last words, Bob?
I just want to say thank you very much for this opportunity to chat. I've missed chatting with you. We never get to do this in-depth a conversation, so it was fabulous. I really appreciate it. And we all deserve to have ease in our body and find joy in our movements. And anytime I can support anyone in reaching that goal, I'm in for it.
I love it. Yeah, no, I totally am with you. And I too have loved this conversation. I know Jenny's going to be like, wow, you went like over an hour, Tash, but I could talk to you forever. So maybe we'll just have to do another episode. So thank you so much for being here. And thanks for listeners for joining us. And
My pleasure.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye-bye.